Hey, welcome to Shooting the Breeze with Lady Liberty. I am Lady Liberty, or Kate Fantanel, and I'm joined by a special guest today. Everyone's excited. Everyone's up and about in the Liberty movement around the world because we have our first ever Libertarian president elected in Argentina. And I thought, who better to come and talk to us about it in Australia than our own Libertarian MP who's been fighting the fight for liberty in the New South Wales Parliament. He is my dear friend, John Ruddick, the Honourable John Ruddick. How are you, JR?
Good evening, Lady Liberty. Lovely to see you, and thanks very much for having me on your show on this magnificent day in human history.
I know. I woke up this morning and my Twitter feed, my phone was going nuts. There were Gadsden flags everywhere. I tweeted my picture of me wearing the Gadsden as a cape in a Melbourne nightclub. I don't know where the flag came from, but I was wearing a taxi theft dress, so it seemed appropriate. And then there's been pictures of the new President of Argentina coming out dressed in one. So very exciting times ahead. Now, you are renowned in the Liberty movement and Australia for your knowledge of history. You've been tweeting and following the Argentinian election very closely, so you're the person for the job. Can you give us a bit of a history about Argentina and why this day is so momentous for the libertarian movement around the world?
Okay, well, so Argentina actually has quite a few parallels with Australia. It's ethnically very much a European country. It's in the southern hemisphere, and it was settled by colonists. And it's a naturally rich country. Now, if we went back into a time machine 100 years ago, the living standards you would see in Australia and Argentina would be very similar. And they would be amongst the very best in the world at that time, the very highest. Now, then what happened was, sadly, when countries become successful, they sort of become intellectually lazy, and they can start doing silly things. And so what happened when Argentina was a very prosperous country with, a real boom nation, mining, farming, fishing, technology, manufacturing. It had the whole lot. It had a big population. It's got a bigger population in Australia still to this day. But they started electing socialist governments in the 1930s and the 1940s. They were sort of somewhere between socialism and fascism. So they were socialists, and it was sort of big personalities that were running it. But they were very cozy with big business as well. And I think they were friends with Mussolini. And anyway, so the place has basically just gone on a very steady and a very long decline for 100 years. Now, there was a guy in the 1990s who tried to bring about some sort of economic sanity, and it sort of, they backed down on that very quickly. And then they've got back onto their road to socialism. And the place has gone to hell, Lady Liberty. I mean, you've in a country that was once had such high living standards, you've got, about one in four, maybe even 1 in 3 people are living in genuine poverty. And the place is, inflation's 150%. In the last year, it's just a mess. Okay, and people are already using the US currency wherever they can. And it's all very sad because, when you meet Argentinian people, they're very good people, very nice people, and they're very, very smart people. But it's just bad. This isn't a lesson in how politics is important. Politics can really wreck your country. And Argentina is wrecked. So, hopefully today is the beginning of the big turnaround.
Yeah, let's go back in time to the 40s when Juan Perón was elected. And I've got a bit of an obsession with Eva Perón, and I know I'm on the complete opposite side of politics to her. But the way that she was one with the people, and she spoke against the elite and the ruling class, and she drove the British out, and she was all about giving back to the poor, which, we don't like to see this huge divide. And being in Western Australia, I see it here myself every day. The divide between the rich and poor is getting bigger. So she really tapped into that. She was one of the people. She came from poverty. She married Colonel Juan Perón, who became the leader of Argentina back in the 40s, and became this slide to Peronism, which is another form of socialism, a very evil form of socialism that the Argentinians embraced for so many years. And now they're at this point now in their country's history where hyperinflation, I was reading a little bit before, it's insane how much things cost there. They go out for dinner and they're bringing bricks of money because that's how much it costs due to what's happened there because of social policies. And then in this year with the presidential election, we had Javier Milei came out as the Libertarian front. He's a self-described anarcho-capitalist and an economist, and he's won today, and he's promised to cut so many government departments. We've all seen the meme going around of him pulling down what government departments he'll cut. We're all getting very excited. So going back a step, what do you think when people have come out and said they've labelled him a far-right leader and they're not sure if he will bring the country back to prosperity? What are your thoughts on that, JR?
Well, look, he's won 56% of the vote in a two-horse race, so I don't know how it's really justifiable to call him far-right. If he'd got 5% of the vote, then maybe that would be applicable. Look, I think he is there have been other good leaders elected in the past, but they've really sort of always been classical liberals, not libertarians. They're classical, a more moderate form of libertarianism. And those politicians will go weak when the going gets tough. Now, Margaret Thatcher didn't, but she's about one of the only exceptions, And John Howard was pretty good economically in his first two terms. I know he's bad on gun rights, but he was good economically in his first two terms. Then he sort of all let it go, and the war on terror came along. Oh, that's more important. And the government grew and grew and grew. But I think what we've got with Javier Milei is, we've got somebody who was absolutely not one of these kids who promised themselves when they were 17, I'm going to be a politician one day. He was an economist. A very good economist. He's been interested in libertarian ideas since he was a teenager. I think he went to the US when he was 18 to go to some libertarian summer camp, and he met some of the well-known libertarian writers. And then he was successful academic in economics, and he started a YouTube channel where he was just sort of had no profile. He just started talking about the benefits of an anarcho-capitalist state, a government-free society, and a very radical position. But he has immense charisma. He really has a real look about him that he's not a normal politician at all. He doesn't look like a politician one little bit. So his YouTube channel made him very successful within Argentina, and then the mainstream TV networks put him on TV. He became very popular. And I believe he had all the right answers on how to fix up Argentina. So then I think 3 or 4 years ago, when they last had their congressional elections, he got elected to the national parliament. I think he was basically an independent. But then he's built a big following. And here he is today. Look, it is an extraordinary political story, putting everything else aside, about his rise to power so quickly and so emphatically at 56%. So that's all good. Now, he is inheriting a basket case. This is a place which is a total mess economically, and so he's got a very big job ahead of him. Now, I think it's not like he's going to get sworn in 3 days' time, and all of a sudden the place is going to become an economic nirvana. This is going to be a hard, tough slog. And he's going to have to give Argentina some pretty tough medicine. And tough medicine never tastes good. So I think, it could be short term, things could get worse for the Argentinian economy. But if anybody is going to absolutely stick by their plan, it's going to be Javier Milei. Before Margaret Thatcher was elected the Prime Minister in 1979, the previous Conservative government, who were all saying good things about economics, etc., they said that they're going to bring about all these, privatisation and pro-free enterprise and cutting taxes and cutting regulation. And this government in the early 1970s, they promised to do it. They started to do it. Things got tough, and then they did what was famously called the U-turn. And when things started going, and then that government sort of went to hell because they betrayed their principles. Then anyway, a few years, almost a decade later, Margaret Thatcher gets elected. She brings in the tough medicine, and she was, people were speculating about whether she's going to do the U-turn. She says, no, there's no way on God's earth I'm going to do a U-turn. And thank God she didn't, because she provided good inspiration for the world on economic reform in particular. Now then, but Javier Milei is Margaret Thatcher times 10. Okay, so he's not going to muck around. I think if anybody can lead the nation through this difficult time where they've got to accept these reforms, I think with 56% of the vote, he's got a lot of moral capital. And the Congress, the Argentinian Congress, has got to agree, where he he's got, he did run some candidates at the congressional elections, but it wasn't really, the main focus was the presidency. So we've got to hope that he can get his agenda through the Congress, which look, probably won't get through entirely, but I think that probably largely will. And then we've got to, but look, I think long term Argentina has got a great future. I'm confident that if anyone can turn it around, and I believe it can be turned around, they've got the perfect guy to turn it around from here.
I've always wanted to go to Argentina, and Melissa Albacetti, who's an academic from Argentina who talks about this, she's been so kind to give me some pointers, and she'll be joining me either tonight or next week to talk about all of this. Now, let's talk about some of the things our new libertarian Argentinian president wants to do. He wants to eliminate the central bank, get rid of which is printed money to fund public spending, leading to hyperinflation. He's pro-Bitcoin. So that's a good sign for libertarians. He also has called global warming a lie of socialism, which I saw you tweeted just before. Let's start with the economic plan. So eliminating the central bank, that's something, and the RBA and the Fed, that's something libertarians love to talk about. Can you see that happening, JR? And what would actually be the consequences of ending a central bank?
Well, look, it's a good question. What has happened with the Argentinian peso is that it's but almost worthless. And it's, I have a good friend who lives in Argentina. He says, look, if I go out to dinner, I just pay in US dollars. So it's already been happening. He said most things are bought and sold in US dollars already. Okay, now, so what they will do is that they will basically, the peso is out of control because they just have to keep printing them. Surprise, surprise, the more they print them, the more inflation there is. Gee, it's amazing that happens. Now, so to kill off that inflation and to bring stability to the Argentinian economy, he's going to remove the peso as currency, and he's going to officially adopt the US dollar as the currency of Argentina. He gave an interview to Bloomberg the other day. It was quite a good interview. It goes for about 15 minutes, and he was asked about the practicalities. Well, how do you actually do this? He said, well, look, you don't do it overnight. He said there was another South American country, it might have been Honduras or Costa Rica or something, one of those small Central American countries. They did the same thing about 3 years ago. They replaced their dollar or their currency with the US dollar. And he said, look, that government thought it would be a 3-month process. It ended up being a 9-month process to remove all the old pesos and to get the dollars in circulation. And there's, shopkeepers have got to sort of adjust to the new currency. But he said all these things can happen. And so he said, look, it'll be, within a year, there won't be any Argentinian pesos. So that's a good thing. Now, what that will do is it will give investors in Argentina, and there's a lot of people that are going to want to invest in Argentina. It'll give them stability, knowing that they can go and get bank loans from Argentina, etc. And the currency is not out of control. So that's a good thing. And then, look, he's going to do a lot of spending cuts. Okay, this is going to be a very important thing. He's famously made the video, with him holding a chainsaw all the time, a live chainsaw at political rallies. Well, he wants to be, max the axe. He wants to go through and sort of not just do some trimmings off. When a Liberal government comes to power in this country, Kate, at the state or federal level, they might remove 5 to 10% off the spending of the Labor Party, and they say, oh, look how fiscally conservative we are. We cut 5% off a government program. Well, Javier Milei is just going to come in and he wants to abolish many departments in total. So that's going to be a good thing. It means that the political class is no longer going to be, enriching themselves while the country goes to hell. Now, then he's also going to bring about deregulation. He's going to be opening it up to, I'm not sure what their tariff situation is, but he's going to encourage lots of free trade and lots of foreign investment. Unless you're from a communist country, he's not going to encourage that. So, look, I think it's on the economic front, it's a massive challenge, but I am excited because I think he can actually, look, this can be a case study for the entire world. This is the exciting part about it, Kate. Mm-hmm. So during the COVID BS, during all that hysteria, from the beginning, one little country out of 200 said, no, we're not going along with all these, compulsory lockdowns and compulsory masks and compulsory vaccine. Good old Sweden, okay? Right-wing, far-right Sweden. We've grown up our whole life thinking, oh, Sweden is the perfect social democrat country, okay? Well, they were certainly perfect in my view during COVID. They did not go along with all the BS, And, now Sweden's got the best COVID stats in the world, pretty much. Okay, and so we should have learned from Sweden. Thank you, Sweden, for setting an example. Imagine if we didn't have Sweden. We'd have Florida in the United States, but to have but even DeSantis locked down for a long time. Okay, that's part of the myth with DeSantis. But anyway, but Sweden never went with the COVID extremism, and so it's a very good outlier. Well, this is what Argentina is going to be for the world's economy. There are barely any finance ministers, treasurers, presidents, prime ministers in the world that I'm impressed with. Okay, that are really they just keep getting us into more and more debt, more and more regulation. It just doesn't end. Well, hopefully Javier Milei, President Milei of Argentina, can give the world a case study and say, look, if you implement these free market libertarian policies, prosperity happens. And here's the example. That's what I'm very much hoping and expecting will be the case.
Yeah, I messaged my family group chat this morning and said, get ready, get to see my political philosophy in action in Argentina. And we grew up watching Evita, the famous Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, which is about Eva Peron and about Peronism, and which is why Argentina is in the situation it's in today. So I'm very excited about what's to come in Argentina. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about in relation to this is his hardline stance against socialism. He's on the record saying the state can give you nothing because it produces nothing. He's on the record saying socialism in Argentina was like boiling frogs. And then when we realized how bad it was, we're all jumping out, but the frogs are already dead from socialism. He said he's very against this idea that where there is a human need, there is a human right. We need to get rid of the sense of entitlement that socialism has fostered in the community. And he said that resolving economic freedom and private property is the answer against socialism. So, JR, in Australia, especially in the younger Australians, my generation and younger, there seems to be this new fascination with socialism. We see it from AOC in the United States with a tax the rich dress, which is why I did my tax is theft dress. How can we educate, especially younger Australians, that socialism is never the answer? And Argentina has lived through socialism and they're in this situation now, and they're turning to our philosophy, libertarian ideas, as the answer. What do you think?
About 2 generations ago, the committed ideological left in the Western world made a very, very smart strategic decision, and that was that they wanted to target our education departments. And so they have populated these departments with hard left-wingers, and they have slowly but surely produced an education system where kids come out the other end of it thinking, socialism is a great thing. That's a very sad thing. Now, we can turn this around despite that programming because the facts are clearly on our side. Okay, the 20th century was basically a battle between free market capitalism, democratic capitalism, and socialism or communism. Now, every single communist country has failed. And the only difference between communism and socialism is that socialism is communism, except you get to so-called have a democratic election to choose who your communist leaders are going to be. That's basically the only difference. The government still owns everything. The government is all supreme under communism or socialism. And it never, ever works. And every time it fails, there's idiots out there in our universities saying, oh, well, look, yes, it's never worked before. And yes, it's caused a lot of famines and everything, but they haven't quite done it right. And next time we try it, we're going to get socialism right. Now, what we believe, what I know that we believe on the Lady Liberty channel, and certainly in my parliamentary office, we believe in a laissez-faire society. Let the people go out and do what they want to do. And yeah, sure, lots of people will make mistakes, but on balance, we'll all move forward when individuals are allowed to flourish without the heavy hand of the state bossing us around. Now, with Mr. President Milei, the truth is, I don't think we need to sugarcoat it. The guy is an anarcho-capitalist. Okay, he has openly said he is an anarcho-capitalist. So what is that? Well, the word anarchy means, from the old Greek, it means, a state without a government, with no rulers. And so Javier Milei is a believer in what Murray Rothbard has promoted, in his many books, a generation ago, which he basically says, look, we can actually evolve into a government-free society, and everything will actually be better. Everything will be more efficient. Things will be more dynamic. People want to have taxes to pay, so people will have a lot more money. So they will become personally invested in charitable causes, and and this is what Javier Milei believes in. Okay, so now he won't be able to abolish the state, overnight or even in one term. I think best case it'll be 20 years. It could be 50 years to remove the state entirely. But this is what his guiding principles are, and we don't often have good news on election nights, Lady Liberty, when you're a libertarian. And you've been around the block more than I have, but there's a lot more disappointing nights than there are good nights. Well, this is a great night. This is as good as it gets for libertarians all around the world.
Yeah, we need David Limbrick to bust out the drums and do a cover of a Rolling Stones song, because the president was in a Rolling Stones cover band. It's all making sense. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, being a Roman Catholic, as you are, like myself, is President Milei's comments about the Pope. In the Tucker Carlson interview, when he said the Pope always plays politics, and he actually called the Pope a communist because he supports communist regimes, and he wasn't a big fan of the Pope. What is your comments on our president's attack on the Vatican? What do you think of that?
Oh, well, look, well, firstly, I'm not actually a Catholic, but I've had a very...
So you can quote Leviticus at me on Twitter.
Yes, yeah. That was just one little line about tattoos.
It's fine.
Look, I'm 100% with Javier Milei on this Pope. I despise this current Pope. And I think it's, he's a reflection of who the cardinals in Rome want. This guy is very, very political and very, very left-wing. And yes, he's an Argentinian. And he strikes me, this current Pope strikes me as nobody. He's someone who is not interested in, what a Pope should be, which is promoting the gospel and the message of Jesus, okay, which is always a good thing. The more people hear about Jesus, always a good thing. But I mean, I don't think he's concerned about that. I mean, I think this is the Pope who even said once, look, might be possible God doesn't exactly exist. Okay, gee, this is a real man of God, this one. So no, if he wants to, Javier Milei's criticisms are 100% accurate. So that we've got two big Argentinian bulls in the pen now, but I'm definitely on President Milei's side.
As am I. The other thing I'll have to ask you about is the president's stance. He's come out as pro-Israel. So some of the libertarians are attacking him, saying, the whole purist test, is he really a libertarian if he supports Israel, because it's coming across as that is pro-war. What do you think about the Argentinians supporting Israel? Is that really something we should get upset about as libertarians, or wait and see?
Well, I think I'm with Javier Milei. He has been publicly supportive of the Israeli government, and so am I. I think he has a real fondness and a real admiration for the Jewish people, and so do I. Now, I think the libertarians are simply saying, in relation to this conflict in the Middle East, they are saying that they don't want other countries to get involved. Well, I support that. Israel is sorting this out. The other countries, we were told, all the geopolitical strategic geniuses were telling us a month ago, Lebanon's going to get involved, and Syria's going to get involved, and Jordan's going to get involved, and Iran's going to get involved. Okay, and it hasn't happened, and that's a good thing. Not even the West Bank has risen up. So I think that the libertarians, who I have to say, most of at least half of the major libertarian names in the world, the philosophers were Jewish people. So I think it's a very there's a lot of Jews in the libertarian movement, but I think that their criticism, and I don't think Javier Milei is thinking of sending over the Argentinian military to help Israel. I think he was just offering moral support, and I think he was right to do so.
Is there any other comments you want to make about our new Argentine-Libyan libertarian president before I ask you about how things are going in New South Wales Parliament?
Well, look, I'm sure we can talk again about Argentina, but yes, I'd like to give the viewers a little update on New South Wales. I'll tell you what's happening in about 2 days' time. is that I'm moving a free speech amendment to the New South Wales Constitution. So I've already moved that motion. I'm giving it the second reading. Then we'll probably vote on it early in the new year. And this is, I have shamelessly cut and paste from the US First Amendment. And we need to have a constitutional free speech guarantee in the New South Wales Constitution. So now I will be interested to see how that goes. And not only would we put it into the Constitution, we would entrench it so that it could only be removed or watered down if there was a referendum of the people of New South Wales. Now, we know that when the people get to vote, they're not going to vote against themselves having free speech. Okay, so that is something that I'm very much looking forward to. I've just finished a few weeks of hearings with a committee, the Energy and Environment Committee, and I heard from a million so-called experts that are telling us global warming's happening, and I told them, well, I don't think it is. And these people are. I mean, I've been skeptical of the global warming thing for since Al Gore got involved in 2007. And I've long believed that people are sort of brainwashed, tricked. A lot of money involved, of course. But I was surprised to see all these sort of people, top bureaucrats, top investors, top political figures, how much they really believe it, Kate. This is their religion, this global war, this global boiling, was it called. So we just have to confront it. President Milei said, he said global warming is a socialist trick, and he's 100% right.
So just going back to your free speech amendment, would that protect New South Wales from the misinformation bill that's coming down federally in any way?
Good question. Look, the federal disinformation bill is largely inspiring what I'm doing, because I'm saying, look, I hope the federal parliament can vote against this. I hope the federal parliament can propose a national constitutional amendment along free speech lines. I'm saying, look, I want to erect a protection barrier around New South Wales first, because there's trends all over the world to erode free speech. So I'm thinking, no, New South Wales should sort of put a line in the sand saying, no, well, you're not going to take away our free speech. But yes, I do say in the second reading speech, I say, look, I'm seeing what's happened with this disinformation bill, which is absolutely alarming. And we want to send a message that we don't want it in New South Wales. I hope that that other people in all the other state and federal parliaments can do a similar thing. Even if it doesn't get up, Lady Liberty, I want to see why the Labor Party and maybe the Liberal Party and the other little parties, I want to see why don't they want to support free speech? Let's put them on the record. It'd be interesting to see what they say.
Well, your first speech, I remember watching it in the pub here in Perth with your good friend Joey Francis, the former Corrections Minister. Yeah, we had a drink and cheers to your fantastic first speech, which I think is the only speech from any politician that was pulled down from YouTube and censored. Is that correct?
Well, all I did was, in that speech, my maiden speech, I mentioned the word ivermectin. Now, what would I know about whether ivermectin works? I personally think ivermectin probably does work. I know it doesn't harm people. At worst, ivermectin is neutral. I think Craig Kelly and the other people, Peter McCulloch and others, Asim Malhotra, all very good people. I believe they're right. I believe ivermectin works. I didn't say that in my speech, though. I did say it's been prescribed to humans 4 billion times, not 4 million, 4 billion times. Very successful drug. The inventors of it won the Nobel Prize for Medicine only in 2015, not that long ago. And I said that the government banning it was shocking, okay, because, at worst it's harmless. And I said, that they were pressured into banning ivermectin by the pharmaceutical industry. Because I didn't actually come out and say, look, ivermectin works, okay? But anyway, just mentioning ivermectin, when we put the speech up on YouTube, we get a notice, oh, well, sorry, this speech is coming down for medical misinformation. And as soon as that happened, I was a bit shocked for 2 minutes. Then I looked at the two guys I was with at the time, and I said, actually, you know what? This is fantastic. Let's buy a case of beer, go back to my place, and let's blast it out to everyone we know that YouTube's taken down our speech because of ivermectin. We sat here for about 6 hours, and we just saw this thing literally go viral around the world. And we think that over 1 million people have watched the speech now. So thank you, YouTube, for banning my speech. Yes.
That's incredible that a New South Wales Upper House member, over 1 million views on your first speech. Well, it was a very good speech, and I encourage everyone to watch it. It has important history lessons in it too, which is why I got you on tonight, because you're a big history buff. Other thing I wanted to ask just quickly, how's it going in New South Wales? How are you finding the parliament? Are you making any wins? Is there anything we should be aware of in other states? I've got my own battle here with the gun rights stuff in Western Australia, which I was talking to you about just briefly off air. It's disgusting what they're trying to do here, bringing in a social credit system for our gun license, crazy stuff. But how's it going in New South Wales? How are you finding being in the upper house? I'm so glad that you're there. I've always admired you, and I was so glad to be on the Senate lineup with you. So how are you finding being an elected libertarian politician, JR?
Well, you know, all around the world, libertarian political parties are full of very smart people, but it's very hard to get people who want to actually be in parliament. Okay, because all of our instincts are, we want to be Guy Fawkes. We want to blow the joint up.
Well, I was born on the 5th of November. I think that's very fitting.
Very fitting date. and so when the party had sort of, or people in the party had encouraged me to run, I was really 50-50. I said, guys, look, I might, if I get elected, I might actually really hate this. Okay, which I thought I might. And they said, okay, well, John, go ahead with the nomination anyway. And if you hate it, quit, and we can replace you. I said, okay, well, that's a good idea. Okay, I'll keep running. I was at one point thinking about pulling out. Now, I thought I might hate it, because I've been involved in the SLP, which is the stupid Liberal Party, for about 30 years. And I used to hate going to Liberal Party social functions. I just hated it. And I thought, getting a parliament every day might be similar to that. But look, the good news is I can say I love it. Now, why do I love it? Because I'm the only one in there, I don't have a boss. I don't have a whip. I don't have an opposition leader or prime minister to tell me what to do. So I can go in and say whatever the hell I want to say. And I've got full liberty to say what I want to say. There's no politics determining, what issues we speak out on. That's why I'm doing a free speech amendment, okay, which is something I believe in. So the bottom line is, look, I am really enjoying it. And but what we need is, look, in terms of are we having wins, there's going to be few circumstances where my vote on the chamber is important. Okay. So now, but look, it's happened a couple of times, and I suspect over the next 8 years, 7 years, it will happen. But the bottom line is, we need more people in Parliament. Okay. If we can get 3 or 4 people, libertarians, in there, well, it could then easily be that we've got the balance of power. We can really throw our weight around it with that type of power. So we need more. So hopefully I'm the first Lady Liberty of a few more to get elected, not just in New South Wales, around the country. Western Australia is important, and hopefully even in the Federal Senate.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for taking the time to join me tonight for this special live stream on a very important day. A libertarian president elected in Argentina after 100 years of socialism. It's incredible for our movement, for everyone who values libertarian principles like I do, like JR embodies in the New South Wales Parliament every day. Keep up the good work, JR. Keep spreading the message of liberty, and I'll have you back on my show anytime you like. I want to hear more about your free speech bills. So thanks again, and thanks to everyone for joining in, and I'll see you next week.
Fabulous. Thanks so much for having me, Lady Liberty. See you soon.